Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanam Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Narayanam Gurum Vande Sharanyam Bhakta Bandhavam Gauramanubhishtam Purnam Radhadasyam Pradayakam Rupandugacharya Varyamburupa Manjari Preshtakam Patita Pavana Karuniyam Yugacharya Narayanam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gaura Twise Namaha Shama Sundara Shikanda Shekhara Izmirahasara Murali Manohara Radhikara Shikamam Kripanide Swapriya Charana Kinkarim Kuru Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vrindai Tulasi Devi Ai Priyai Keshava Sacha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavatyai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I begin offering my most humble obeisances to the dust of the lotus feet of Paramaraditam Sri Guru Pada Padama Nita Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Stotra Sata Srimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudev, and to my most worshipable Shiksha and Sannyasa Guru Nita Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Stotra Sata Srimad Shila Bhakti Vijnana Bharati Goswami Maharaj, and to all Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga, all Tridandi Sannyasis, Brahmacharis, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, and to all the assembled devotees here today, my most respectful obeisances. So I see the connection is not totally smooth, at least for me here, but let me know if the audio will be cut or anything like that. Okay, let me know. So last time we were discussing many things, but suddenly the light went off, internet, everything stopped due to rain. So, and we were talking about, Chandrika asked actually the how to, no, she asked if only chanting is enough, is sufficient for bhakti to get perfection, if only chanting is enough. Then I explained, no, only chanting is not enough. At least you must hear Harikatha. You must hear Harikatha. Then chanting can be possible. So then we remember what Gurudev told, that the if you have taste for chanting, but you don't have taste for Harikatha, actually the taste for chanting will be stopped. But if you don't have taste for chanting, but you have taste for Harikatha, then gradually the taste for Harikatha must increase. Okay, so Harikatha depends, Harinam depends on Harikatha. That's very, very much important. Okay, so now chapter 13, Prakriti Purusha Vibhaga Yoga. Yoga through understanding the distinctions between material nature and the enjoyer. Enjoyer here means the jiva, the jivatma who is there. Krishna called it Purusha. So the first verse is Arjuna says, O Keshava, I would like to understand nature, Prakriti, the enjoyer, Purusha, the field, Kshetra, the knower of the field, Kshetragya, knowledge, Jnana, and the object of knowledge, Gaya. So in the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, this 13th chapter specifically deals with the subjects of the body, Kshetra, the soul, Jivatma, and the super soul, Paramatma, the process of knowledge, Jnana, and an extensive deliberation on the living entity, Jiva, and the material nature, Prakriti. Okay? So in Srila Gurudev's commentary, Srila Gurudeva says, Srimad Bhagavad-gita consists of 18 chapters, which have been divided into 3 sections. The first 6 chapters describe Nishkama Karma Yoga, Bhakti Mishra Jnana, and topics that are relevant for knowledge of the soul and the super soul. The second set of 6 chapters that we have concluded, since we are now on the 13th chapter, we have already concluded the middle part in the last class, explains the glory of exclusive devotion, pure bhakti, ananya bhakti, deliberates on spiritual and material devotion, para and apara bhakti, and describes the glory of Bhagavan's Swarupa, as well as the glory of the Swarupa of the devotee. It also explains the speciality and supremacy of bhakti compared to various other processes, and gives details of other similar topics. Tattva Jnana is explained in detail in this third set of 6 chapters. Okay, now we begin the last part of the Gita, the last 6 chapters, which is about Jnana Yoga. Okay, Jnana means knowledge, but when we talk about Jnana Yoga, here in the context of Gita, we are talking about knowledge about the Supreme, knowing all the different informations about Krishna. That is what he's describing as Jnana Yoga. Knowing the differences, the different informations, qualities, whatever features of Krishna. That is what he calls Jnana Yoga. Previously, it was described only in brief. Means we had some Tattva Jnana before in other chapters, but it was briefly. It deliberates on material nature, Prakriti, the enjoyer, Purusha, the field, Kshetra, and the knower of the field, Kshetragya. The most confidential instruction of Gita is finally delivered in the 18th chapter. Okay? In 18th chapter, Guhyatama knowledge, most confidential knowledge is going to be described. Okay, so let us understand what is this Kshetra, Kshetragya, Prakriti, Purusha, everything. Verse number 2. Krishna said, O son of Kunti, those conversant with knowledge regarding Kshetra and Kshetragya describe this body as a field, Kshetra, and one who knows his body to be the knower of the field is Kshetragya. So body is Kshetra, body is the vehicle of the soul. The knower of the field is the one who is understanding how this body works. In the commentary, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, the ignorant conditioned souls, greedy to acquire sense objects, experience misery as one of the fruits of this tree of material existence. Places like Swarga, the heavenly planets, are also ultimately miserable. However, there are some swan-like liberated personalities who also reside in the forest of the material world. They enjoy another type of fruit, namely the happiness of liberation, moksha, which is always blissful. Thus, the one tree of material existence leads to various destinations, such as the heavenly planets, the hellish regions, and liberation. Hmm? It's observed, therefore, that this tree is composed of Maya and that it has multiple forms, being born from the deluding potency. Only those who accept the bona fide spiritual master understand this secret, and it is they who actually know the field and the knower of the field. Hmm. So this material world offers so many things, so many options. Among them, all are illusory, except the liberation for Krishna's abode. Apart from that, everything else is illusory. The next is verse 3. O Bharata, understand that I alone am the knower within the bodies of all living beings. This knowledge of the body as the field and of the living entity and the super soul as the knowers of the field is actually knowledge. This is my opinion. So now Krishna is saying there are two knowers of field, the Jiva and Paramatma. Paramatma knows better. Jiva knows part, not fully. Next is verse 4. Hear from me a brief description of that field, its characteristics and transformations, why and from whom it has come into existence, and the swarupa and influence of the knower of that field. Verse 5. The truth of the field and the knower of the field have been explained concisely in many ways by saintly persons and numerous Vedic literatures, and it is described with perfect logic and definitive conclusions in the verses of Vedanta Sutra. So here Krishna mentions Vedanta Sutra. I think this is the only scripture that he mentions directly, saying that they have been describing, about this knowledge of Prakriti, and the body and everything also. Then verses 6 and 7. The five material elements, the false ego, the intelligence, the unmanifest material nature, the 11 senses, the 5 sense objects such as sound and form, desire, hatred, happiness, misery, the body, knowledge, and patience comprise of a brief description of the field, along with its transformation. So what is that? These are the 24 elements. This is what is characterized by the combination of this material world. So the material world is made out of 24 elements. Who are they? First is Prakriti, then Mahatattva, then Ahankara. From Ahankara, then we come the 5 working senses. And which are they? Speech, hands, feet, anus, and genitals. Then you have the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, Gyanendriya, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Then you have the mind. Then you have the 5 elements, fire, water, earth, air, and ether. And also you have the 5 senses, touch, sight, taste, smell, touch, and sound. So these in total are 24 elements. Okay, so the material world is created by these 24. Composed, not created, composed, made out of these 24 elements. The next verse is from 8 to 12. Devoid of a desire for honor, freedom from pride, possessing the qualities of non-violence, forbearance, simplicity, service to a qualified guru, both internal and external purity, steadiness of mind, control of the body and senses, detachment from sense objects such as sound and touch, absence of false ego, constantly perceiving the misery of birth, death, old age, and disease, renouncing attachment to wife, children, home, etc., not being absorbed in the happiness and misery of others, equanimity in attaining either desirable and undesirable circumstances, one-pointed, steadfast, and unswerving bhakti to me, a liking for solitude, a distaste for the association of materialistic people, and constant deliberation on knowledge of the self and on the purpose of Tattva Jnana. That is liberation. I consider all these to be knowledge. Everything else is ignorance. So before Krishna described then Prakriti and also the body, including these 24 elements, now he's describing what is jnana, what is knowledge. Knowledge is all these qualities that he has described, all this state of consciousness, this predisposition that the person must have to become a real devotee. So this is a list that we should go through and realize and try to follow this. If you can make yourself like this, as Krishna describes here, then you are a real devotee. Okay? So always keep this list of things in mind. This is very, very important. The next is verse 13. Now I shall fully explain to you that which is worthy to be known. Upon understanding it, one attains liberation. The beginningless Brahma is dependent on my personal form, and it is said to lie beyond all cause and effect. Okay, now Krishna is going to explain about Brahma and Paramatma. So he begins with Brahma. Brahma is the effulgence, the impersonal aspect of the Lord, the light which emanates from the body of Bhagavan. And Krishna says, that Brahma depends on my form because it's coming from me. Just like the sun rays depend on the sun. They don't have independent existence. So that's the point Krishna is making here. The next verse 14. Krishna says, his hands and feet are everywhere. His eyes, heads, and faces pervade all directions, and he hears everything. Situated thus, Brahma pervades the entire universe. This verse is very controversial. Many people try to, speculate about this verse, saying many, many different things. But what Krishna says is something very simple. His hands and feet are everywhere. He's talking about Paramatma. But he says Brahma pervades the universe. Brahma pervades the universe. Well, but how Brahma can have legs and feet? Brahma is just a light. So here we have to understand that there is no difference between technically, like from philosophical point of view, there is no difference between Bhagavan, Brahma, and Paramatma. They are actually one thing. They're actually one thing. So, for example, in the Jaiva Dharma, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives a very nice example to explain how actually Brahma, he's being complemented by Paramatma. Because he says, Brahma is everywhere. Okay, Brahma is also, omnipresent, omniscient. Through Paramatma. Because Paramatma is inside of each atom, because Paramatma is in the heart of the living entity, then Brahma is present there. And of course, Krishna is present there because of them. So the presence of Paramatma actually is what expands the presence of Brahma everywhere, and also the presence of Bhagavan. So it's not that one is limiting the other. No, one is expanding the other. So Krishna is coming. He's expanding himself in the Brahma aspect, then later he expands himself as Paramatma. So they are just expansions of Krishna himself. So it should not be taken into account that they're having independent existence, or they are just different aspects of something independent. No. When the Mayavadis say that God cannot have a form because a form cannot be omnipresent, because a form has form is limited to one place, right? Krishna is limited to one place. Otherwise, if he has form, he cannot be infinite or unlimited, because the form limits him. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, no, because Brahma is coming from Krishna. Krishna is everywhere through Brahma. Krishna is all-pervading, infinite, unlimited through Brahma. So Brahma is how Krishna is staying everywhere. Like that. Hopefully it's clear. Okay, if you have any doubts, let me know. Drive Dharma is a must-read book. Bhagavad Thakur explains so many things in a very simple language that from other sources are a little bit sometimes difficult to understand. For example, this shloka opens like room for so much speculation, so many things. Even Mayavadis use these against, bhakti and so many things. Now, next is verse 15. That knowable person is the illuminator of all the senses and their functions, yet he is devoid of mundane senses. Although detached, he is the maintainer of all living beings. And although devoid of material qualities, he is the enjoyer of 6 transcendental opulences. He is talking about Bhagavan, the Supreme Person. He is the one who is making the senses to work. How he's making? Then this is another explanation of the previous verse. When he says his legs and feet are everywhere, he's saying that he is living through all the living entities. The living entities have legs and then hands, right? So because Paramatma is inside of everyone, he is living through inside of every living entity. Therefore, he is having his hands and legs everywhere. This is also being explained here in the purport. So next, verse 16. That absolute entity dwells within and without all beings, and it is only because of him that this world of moving and non-moving beings exists. Being very subtle, he is very difficult to comprehend, and he is simultaneously far away and very close. Krishna is far away, at the same time he's the closest person to you, because he's inside of your heart, he's inside of every atom. So he pervades everything. He pervades, he's everywhere. So it's because of his presence that matter can have consciousness, matter can have life. If God would not expand himself inside of the creation would never happen, because matter cannot manifest consciousness. Life comes from life. Srila Swami Prabhupada's book, Life Comes from Life. Very nice book. So only consciousness can create consciousness. And who are the ultimate consciousness? This is Krishna's consciousness. And this is also one shloka. This shloka also creates a lot of confusion that the Mayavadis also use to say, oh, everyone is Brahma, everyone is God, because he is everywhere, and he is within and without everything and everyone, Only because of him everything exists. So ultimately everything runs by his desire. Everything runs by his, um, uh, desire. So we are actually him. We are only being deluded to think that we are separated, but actually we are him. But no, this is completely wrong. It's not because he is everywhere that he's present everywhere that he is everything. He's not everything. He's just part of what is in the material world. But the material world exists by itself. The jivas exist by themselves. Next, verse 17. Although the supreme truth is undivided, he appears to be divided, being situated within every being. Know him to be the sustainer, annihilator, and creator of all. Very simple. In verse 19. Thus I have briefly described the field of the body, knowledge, and an object of knowledge. By understanding them, my devotee attains prema bhakti, transcendental loving devotion to me. Verse 20. Know both material nature, prakriti, and the living entity, purusha, to be without beginning, and that the three binding qualities and their transformations are generated from prakriti. Three binding qualities means sattva, rajas, and tamas. They are generated by prakriti. Then next, verse 23. In this body, there exists another Purusha, apart from the individual living entity. He is known as the super soul, and he is called the witness, the permitter, the supporter, the maintainer, the supreme controller, Paramatma, and so forth. So always beside the living entity, the soul, there is Paramatma, like two birds in the branch of the tree. In verse 24, one who thus understands the super soul, the deluding potency with her three binding influences, Maya Tattva, as well as the minute living beings, Jiva Tattva, does not take birth again, even though presently situated within this material world. So if you understand, but when Krishna says those who know it, this know is not only by hearing, getting information. Know means realizing this. So that's the difficulty, because know in the sense of getting information we got, but that does not mean that we are going to become liberated. Know here means to realize. You have to realize. You have to have the experience of this. When you see Paramatma, when you see Brahma, when you see Bhagavan, then you understand everything. When you have relationship with him, then you understand everything. Then you realize everything. Otherwise not. But everything begins with information. At least you know now what you should learn, what is expecting you. Next is the 29. Because he perceives the super soul to be equally dwelling everywhere in all living beings, he does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he attains the supreme destination. Means that the mind can lead you to degradation, to destruction, when the mind is identified with the sense objects. But if you can go beyond the mind, then you can become liberated. Therefore, all the process of yoga and spiritual practice, it deals with the mind. It is our techniques for mind control. Because without controlling the mind, you can't go further. So the first step is to control the mind. If you don't control the mind, forget. You can never go into samadhi. Never. It's impossible. Samadhi happens in the disturbed mind, state of mind. So therefore, yamas and niyamas are very important. Following the rules and regulations and principles is very important because it will affect directly the stability of the mind. So that's very important. Srila Gurudev used to say, don't think chanting only 16 rounds you will be able to control your mind. Not possible. You have to chant much more. Your mind is very, very unstable, very chanchal. Chanchal means restless, always moving to different places. So you have to chant a lot. Otherwise, you cannot overcome this. You can chant 16 rounds just for the sake of, doing it like a duty. But practically speaking, it's not enough. Mahaprabhu told 1 lakh every day, 64 rounds every day. Then it's possible. Then it's possible. Next, verse 34. O Bharat, just as one sun illuminates the whole universe, in the same way, the super soul illuminates the entire body with consciousness. So the whole body is illuminated by Paramatma, as with consciousness. Yes, so this is the end. This is how Krishna ends up with the verse 35. He says, those who see through the eye of spiritual knowledge and thus become conversant with the difference between the field and the knower of the field, and with the means by which the minute living entity attains deliverance from the bondage of material nature, attain Sri Bhagavan's supreme abode. So this is the end of the 13th chapter. Simple subject, not much difficult. 24 elements described. Difference between what is knowledge. What is knowledge? All those qualities that Krishna described: controlling the senses, being peaceful, not being attached to material things, practicing, having accepted the bona fide guru. All these things are knowledge, real knowledge. Here he says real knowledge, like useful knowledge. Anything else is not real knowledge. It's just, information. Knowledge and information is a different thing. Knowledge is everything that will connect you to Krishna. This is called Sambandha Jnana. So knowledge means whatever links me with Krishna. That's knowledge. That's knowledge. And then he describes the presence of Paramatma and the Jivatma inside of the body, inside of the field. Two knowers of the field. One is the Jiva, one is Paramatma. Then what else he speaks? That Brahma is depending on him. So Brahma is not actually, because the Mayavadis say first Brahma, after Bhagavan. Brahma created the form of Bhagavan in order the Jivas have, like a direct sense perception of Bhagavan. Because you cannot meditate in Brahma, right? You remember last chapter we discussed this. Krishna says, those who meditate in Brahma, they suffer. It's like beating empty husks. There is no love. There is no devotion. Why? Because it's very hard to meditate in something which has no form, no features, nothing you can understand about Brahma. And how can you meditate in Brahma? How can you fix your mind in something which is not existing? Therefore, you come to the neti-neti philosophy. What is neti-neti philosophy? This is not, this is not, this is not, this is not. Means Brahma is not this, Brahma is not that, Brahma is not that. When you cut all the possibilities of what Brahma is not, what remains is Brahma. But you see, you are not defining Brahma. It's not a like affirmation, Brahma is this. No, you cannot say what Brahma is because he's featureless, he's formless. So therefore, Krishna says, no, those who meditate on me, it's much easier. Therefore, the Mayavadis, they say that the form of God was created to facilitate the meditation. But once they come to certain level, they will give up the meditation on the form and they will only be thinking about Brahma. So all this very simple, like, summary. This is the chapter 13th.